sustainable friends, welcome back to our YouTube channel. As always, I am Sarah and we're here to talk about sustainability. But in particular, we're here to talk about a very specific topic. And to do it, we're here with Dana, who is actually a specialist, a researcher on this topic, and we're talking about microplastics. So Dana, hi, thank you so much for being connected with us.
Thank you for having me here.
So Dana, as a first question, I want to ask you how and when you became just passionate about this topic of microplastics.
I'm always passionate about environment and sustainability. Since I come from the RLC area where a huge environmental disaster took place in the 60s. That's why I always wanted to be an environmentalist and environmental scientist and doing the research in environmental science. I actually started doing research around 4 years ago. And it was different topics: water pollution, air pollution, environmental risk assessment, and so on. But quite honestly, all these topics were interesting, but still not something I was very passionate about. So I come from Kazakhstan, and my professor advised me to try and see the topic of microplastics, but no one ever did any research on microplastics before in Kazakhstan. I wasn't really interested in microplastics at first because I didn't have a lot of information, but when I started reading a lot of different papers and research about microplastic, how it's everywhere, how there are basically no regulations, how many hidden plastic sources there are in our lives. And I realized, okay, this is a very, very big new topic that we need to address. And yeah, that's how I started doing microplastic research. It was 3 years ago.
And that's very, very interesting. But I think the most interesting part is that you don't only research, but you also share online. And in fact, I came to know you because I came across your Instagram profile where you do share a lot of interesting facts about microplastics. So I wanted to ask you when you began also to share online and what was the response also of the public to these videos?
I started sharing videos a year ago, so 2024. Everyone was very interested and my growth was I don't know, very crazy. So in just 1 year, from 0 followers to over 100,000, it clearly shows that people are super hungry for information about microplastics, and it's like a trending topic right now. I started because basically there were not a lot of people talking about this topic, and it affects all of us. Like every single person, every single living being is affected by microplastics. That's why I was like, okay, there should be a good, credible source that is sharing more or less engaging, not too sciencey videos, but at the same time full of information. Yeah.
In fact, I thought it would be more than a year actually, seeing your growth. So yeah, it means that it is an interesting topic, but not many people actually talk about it. So you had a really great idea, I think, to share this online. And so in your videos, you share tips, but also misconceptions about the topic. So I wanted to ask you first, what is a definition? Because maybe some people who are watching don't even know what it means, microplastics, and what are still some misconceptions today about this topic.
Starting with the definition of microplastics. So microplastics are plastic particles that just very, very tiny. To be identified as microplastics, it should be less than 5 millimeters in size. And they're basically, we divide them into 2 categories: primary and secondary microplastics. So secondary microplastics are the one that comes from breaking down of larger plastic objects like plastic bottles, shaded microplastics, and stuff like this. And primary microplastics are those plastics that were intentionally manufactured to be small, and usually they're used in different paints, also in different personal care products, for example, toothpaste or facial scrubs and stuff like this. About the misconception, there are, of course, a lot of them when it comes to microplastics because it's a new topic. I think one that I want to highlight especially is the trends on detoxing from microplastics. I don't think they're very I don't think it's a good way to fight with microplastics and microplastic pollution, because yeah, you can detox, you can, I don't know, go to a sauna or donate your blood, but then you will be again exposed to microplastics. So I don't think it's a really great way to fight with microplastic. A really great way to fight with microplastic is to actually reduce your exposure to plastic objects, especially the single-use plastic and all the plastic in the kitchen. And another thing is, of course, support regulations, especially regulations on production of plastic, because right now it's completely unregulated. And yeah, I think you could see how big amount of plastics is produced nowadays that is unnecessary.
Yeah, absolutely. But outside the big regulations and something related to the big system, what are some practical steps that everyone can take in order to fight this problem?
If we're talking about reducing the exposure, for example,
Yeah.
we'll start with single-use plastics, of course, because usually they are quite easily swappable. For example, if you're drinking only from single-use plastic water bottles, you can invest into a reusable water bottle that will save you money in the long term, and of course will save you from all the plastic and pollution and stuff like this. Yeah, so looking out for non-plastic swaps, for single-use swaps. I also usually tell about all the things that is related to food. If it's possible to cut down plastic there, it would be really great, because that's like the highest exposure point for us. It's everything that has to do with with food. So, for example, like plastic utensils, different plastic containers, and stuff like this. And if we're talking about some systemic change, of course, you can also try and find different petitions. There are many of them online. There are good organizations like Story of Staff or Five Gyres, for example, and they're advocating for microplastic-free future.
Yeah, that's very, very important. And as you know, we also have a sustainability certification called the Friend of the Earth. And there we also try to reduce the exposure to microplastics and the use of microplastics. So I wanted to ask you specifically the connection between this topic of microplastics and the fashion world, because I know that there is a big connection there.
You're right, completely. There's a huge connection between fashion and microplastics. Unfortunately, it's because nowadays majority of all the clothes that are produced right now are produced with synthetic fabrics, usually polyester, nylon, and stuff like this. And those are all plastic. And every time you wash them, or even just when you wear them, they will shed microplastics right into your air and right into your water. And fashion is considered one of the biggest contributors to microplastic pollution.
Yeah, absolutely. And for this reason, we believe it's important to go towards to prefer a sustainable fashion. So thank you so much, Dana. And as a last question, I wanted you to explain a bit the creation of your app, because you also have an app to, let's say, monitor, we can say, microplastics. So I wanted to ask you about this as well.
As I said, there are many hidden sources of plastic, like paper cups. They're called paper, but they're lined with plastic. Chewing gums. Most of the commercially available chewing gums are made out of plastic. The base. Fashion, different clothes, different names for different fabrics, but still also they're all plastic, like polyester, acrylic, and nylon, and all of these. They also have different names, but they're all plastic. And I realized that even every time when I share those videos explaining people that these are all plastic, it still could be very confusing. And you know the nature of social media, you post once and then after like a couple of weeks, the video gets like disappeared.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have one place where all this information is properly sorted out, where you can learn more about microplastic for free. The educational part there is completely free. You can learn about microplastic, what are the sources, what's the environmental impact, what's the impact on human health. And there's the scanner feature. You can take a picture of quite literally anything, especially I think it's very helpful when it comes to like ingredient list. in different skincare, personal care products, you can take a picture and then it will say like if there's a high or low microplastic risk score. The app is microplastic free. It's available in the App Store and Google Play. If you want to, you can try, of course. Yeah.
I will absolutely try, and I also invite everyone who's watching to try it as well because it sounds very, very interesting. So thank you so much, Dana. And also let's remind people which are your social media channels so that they can also go and follow you.
Instagram and TikTok at Dankaže.
Perfect. So Dana, I hope this chat was interesting to you as well. It surely was for us. And I hope this can also be the beginning of a collaboration with you and your channels. And also congratulations for all of you're doing and all of the sensibilization that you're doing on this topic.
For having me. It was a great time.
Thank you. Hi, Dana. Bye-bye. See you in the next interview, guys. Bye-bye.